over the river and through the woods. Introducing Tony Saxby in episode 186 of the BTS Creative Academy podcast, Uncut, with me, your host, Martin
You used to do it
Colton.
with wearing headphones?
I did,
Yes.
But the guests started to say how a couple of them were saying how it was distracting, and then I started to discover myself I didn't actually need them really. It was just part of the look, I guess, of doing it. But there's no real need for it. We're having a conversation. I know the mics are working. I just tested them before you arrived. Yeah. So here we are, Tony.
Okay.
Welcome. We're starting. We're in the podcast now. Thank you for joining me.
Ah, brilliant.
It's nice to see you. Haven't seen you in quite a while. You're looking tanned. You're looking like you've been away.
Well, we would have done this in January, but
yes,
because as you and I were involved in the Santa experience, we talked about this, didn't we? Mm-hmm. On our journeys to and from.
Yes.
I thought, I'd be really, really excited to do it, and then, mid-January we were heading off to Spain again, so that's hence the tan. It's just not lying in it, just walking the dogs in Spain, and that's our other life, which we spend 90 days in Spain, where we've got a place, and we love it. And so been back about 6 weeks.
Oh, it looks like you got back yesterday. It keeps you looking healthy, doesn't it?
Well, we've just had a long weekend away actually in Tewkesbury. Mm-hmm. We bought a motorhome in Spain, and we're using it while we're here because we had one which we bought during lockdown, and loved it. Always loved travelling, mm-hmm. and you may remember I had a narrowboat.
Yes,
and we travelled around on the narrowboat. So I just love going to new towns, new places, and just history. That's one of my passions. Mm-hmm. And so we had a nice weekend on Saturday, and we were literally just sitting out chatting to some friends. And the next day, Mandy said, "Blimey, you've gone brown." So just to top it up.
Just from being outside in the British summers, just helped you top it up. Wonderful.
I mean, it's not been very good so far, has it?
No, I guess we had like a week, didn't we, somewhere there? That was probably our British summer.
I think so, yeah.
But I feel like we're going to get right into this, Tone, and there is a tradition that I do
mm-hmm.
at the beginning of these. He knows, does he? He knows.
I've been watching.
You've been watching. How do we do it around the mics? That's the question. So here we go. So on 3, 2, 1, clap.
Oh, not 1, 2, 3.
Which way do you want to do it?
Well, you've done both ways, so
I do, don't I? Like,
I think 3, 2, 1's the traditional, right?
3, 2, 1. Nice, okay. And we're in. There we go. Thank you, Tony.
Thank you.
It's nice to hear that you've been listening and watching. I do truly appreciate that. It's really nice.
Well, I was intrigued when you told me, and the Danny Gleeson one I was intrigued with. I think that's one of the first ones I watched, and then obviously, as each week when you bring them out, dip in and dip out. Some have more interest than others, like anything, isn't it?
Yeah,
so it's what grabs your attention, isn't it?
Yeah,
so.
And I guess with all of these, everyone's different, and that's one of the beautiful things that I've discovered with this. Literally, every single person is different. No two people are the same.
Of course,
there may be similarities in what they do, but even if I've had 10 actors on here, every one of those 10 actors have been different and have got something different to say.
Different viewpoint.
And a different viewpoint.
Good.
And I've just found that there's just so much value in that. For me personally,
yeah.
I've got from that. I've learnt so much from all these different people, more than I've done in my entire lifetime.
It seems to have lifted you as well as an individual.
I would say so.
Yeah.
I would very much say so. I'd say that it's in doing this, I found myself, and I've discovered something that I enjoy. To have conversations, to catch up with old friends, to make new friends as well, and like I say, the learning has been phenomenal, and
Good.
that's not a thing I would have thought would be a takeaway from when I started.
Well, the fact you called it BTS Academy is not.
Yes, it should mean that. It should mean that. But you were asking me when we was outside what does the BTS?
Yeah, I've been trying to work it out. I can't work it out.
Stand for? Well, it now means behind the scenes.
Ah, okay.
Behind the scenes of the Creative Academy. That's kind of like what that is.
Yeah.
And in the film industry, BTS is what you call the crew that are making the behind the scenes kind of documentary.
Right.
But it didn't start off as that. It started off as beginners to stage.
Yeah.
And the Creative Academy thing didn't start off as this is the academy where we're learning. It started off as the podcast was going to be a platform for a business that I was going to start. Like with training courses was what I was going to do.
Ah, I see.
But it very quickly transformed into its own thing, and it wasn't supposed to be. I wasn't supposed to be doing that, clearly.
But it's a great way of sharing thoughts, processes of people that want to be creative in all ways, isn't it? So
yeah.
It's been quite fascinating. So I'm not sure what I can share, but
we'll find out. I've known you quite a while, Tony. We've shared the stage quite a few times, haven't we?
Yeah.
We've worked together in a professional sense.
We did, yeah.
Which is good, that's quite strange that we found each other there as well. That was through some weird coincidence, wasn't it? When we worked in the bank together.
Let's not mention that any further.
The bank. That was a difficult time in my life, actually. The bank, and it was. I think you're someone that helped me through that.
Thank you. Well, we were friends, from before that, when we met during, I think, I don't know, before Robin Hood, wasn't it? But I remember Robin Hood having a closer connection with you during that, which was one of the Christmas plays we did.
2012, 2011, 2012.
Yeah, so I know we did Electra before that, I think.
Yes, and that was 2007. But I feel like I knew you before that.
Well, I didn't start. So here's my journey. So 20 years ago, almost to the month, was my journey into drama.
Wow.
So I've just turned 63. I just turned 43. Tasha was 8. And I'd just got divorced. I'd been living on my own for a few months. I'd broken up from a second time around relationship, and had a next door neighbour whose son was involved in the arts. He was a dancer, and his graduation party we were invited to because knew them very well. And on the back of that, I stood in a doorway with Brenda Taylor. Didn't know Brenda Taylor. I knew of Brenda Taylor, and the girls were sort of running in between because Tash would play with the girl next door whose same age was, and I think Brenda just asked, do you do drama or do you do anything? And I laughed. I said no. I said.
And sorry, this was Brenda Taylor.
Brenda Taylor.
And for anyone listening that doesn't know, Brenda Taylor,
of course, yes,
runs a dance school. A dance school,
for many years.
Quite a big one in the town. Perhaps the longest running in the town. Could we
I would
say?
pretty much say, yeah. Definitely the most recognised one. And she's had many students that have gone on to become professionals. Yes. So that's.
And in fact, my last guest had been to Brenda Taylor's.
Oh, wow! Okay.
And went on to become a professional dancer.
Yeah.
So
well, there you are. And just by chance, she mentioned that this was on Saturday afternoon, and she said that there was going to be an audition here in Victoria Hall on the Sunday. And we should go along. So didn't think anything more of it, and then just had a very pleasant evening, just talking about other stuff. So prior to that, I had done no drama whatsoever.
So what enticed you in then to that first audition? What was it that was drawing you?
Tasha was very, very artistic, drawing, but she'd been involved with the school plays, like the Christmas plays, but she was always given a prominent role because she was always a good orator, very confident, as a 5, 6, 7-year-old. Where she got that from, I don't know. But she loved that stage presence, and she had a very good stage presence at that early age.
So your daughter was performing before you?
She was at school.
At school, before a performer at school. You could see the performer coming out.
Yeah, singing, and just doing those little plays and little reenactments, and the ones they would normally do at the end of the term. And a lot of people would say, what little star she is. And I was explaining that to Brenda, and Brenda said, well, you should get her involved in, the Playhouse Theatre School, or that was the school that I think that was at the time that was prominent. But I was aware of Cats a little bit, but found out more about Cats, later on. Which
as in Class Act Theatre School.
Class Act Theatre School. Sorry,
yeah, another big in the town, another big drama school in the town. Yeah,
and there's a story to the back of that which we might come to later. But Tash finally finished her, I guess, her enjoyment, what she did out of school before going to university. She finished with Simon and Caroline at Class Act Theatre School, and again, shone out like many, and that's not me just saying it. It was so what I knew was, though, I say she was very confident on stage. Meeting new people, she was very shy.
In the outside world, it was
very
different.
Very shy. She needed to be in an environment that she could get used to, and then she could grow within. But meet anybody new, and she would be very clingy. Didn't like new environments. So I was like, oh, okay. And we did toy with the idea of going to one of the drama schools. I can't remember which, but it was a play pantomime, type arrangement. I didn't know anything about it. Didn't know anything about Vicky Hall. Just found out the details, and we turned up after lunch. It was in the afternoon, and Jane Pragnell was directing, and there were all these people that had already been there. We arrived late, and Jane came over and said, "Oh, have you come for the audition for the children?" And we went, well, we don't know. We've never done anything before. She said, oh, because the children's auditions were this morning, and we're doing the adults now. I went, oh, okay, sorry. And I was just about to leave. She said, no, just stay, sit. Perhaps you'll enjoy it. So we did. We just sat and we watched Steve Foster. We watched Kyle Jaggers, who I obviously now become very good friends.
Yes, and these people are really strong, prominent figures around the amateur dramatics community scene of the town, aren't they?
Steve for many years, both in Harlow and Hatfield Heath. Kyle, I think, was reasonably new. I think this might have been his second, maybe only his second production. And there are other people whose names I can't remember, but those are ones that stuck out vividly because, as we'll come to the story, I got to know them very well during the production, which obviously leads on to the fact that, I got persuaded. I was given a bit of paper by Wendy Parsley, another prominent figure of Harlow Theatre Company, and asked to fill it out. So, name, what character would you like to be? So I turned to Tasha and say, what characters are there? It's Wind in the Willows, And I've read to her Wind in the Willows, and there's a link to this as well.
So was you doing this for Tasha? Was you trying to get involved to kind of give her a bit of support and a bit of?
Well, Brenda said it's something we could do together. You see,
right?
So in this particular,
so you saw
genre,
it as a family thing.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, before I knew anything about it. So my last drama was in sixth form at school, many years ago. But I'll come back to why I ended up enjoying it again. There are many links going back prior to my entry 20 years ago into this particular play. Anyway, so Tasha said, well, it's Toad, it's Badger, there's Ratty, and that was the extent of our knowledge. So wrote those down, and didn't think anything else of it. And then I put Tasha's name down next to it, and Tasha said, "No, don't want to do it." She was already waiting to get out because there was too many new people.
Yes, yeah. It's quite scary, isn't it, walking into an environment like that?
It was,
even as an adult.
Oh God, it was
walking into a room of clearly people know each other.
Yeah,
clearly there's some kind of group already going on here, and then to come into that.
Yeah, I've never done an audition.
You have to be very brave, don't you?
Exactly. Well, or stupid.
Yes, or stupid, or stupid.
I I was ignorant of everything really. So I'll go on the stupid side to start with.
Yeah.
And so they had a little break, and Jane came over and took this bit of paper from me and said, would you be interested in reading? Because we'd watched a few things. And so we were sitting in the auditorium at the back. I can tell you the seats that we were sat in. And I got an gist of what was going on, really. People were coming on stage with a script in their hand and were reading passages. So they had their little break, and she said, would you be interested in doing a reading? And I went, oh, go on then. Tash said, yeah. And Tash elbowed me and said, go on then. Mm-hmm. So sure enough, I came up on stage, and there was Steve, and there was Carl, a couple of others, and we started to read. You know, I was given it, right. Would you be Ratty, please? Oh, okay, right. So away we go, doing this, because they'd already done one of the scene before, I think. So there I go, and I go, do Ratty. And I put this voice on. Oh, I do Ratty. And I do Ratty like this, you see. And I carried on doing all that. Oh, good, very good. And then, okay, thank you. And I'm just about to put the script down to go down. And Jane said, no, can you just stay there, Tony? And a few other people, she said, would you mind doing Badger now? Oh, okay, same scene. Okay, I'll be Badger now then. And so I did this voice for Badger, you know. And I went through the same scene, which is to put the script down again. And Jane said, no, would you be Toad now? So I'd seen, obviously, what the other people did Toad, so I did Toad. Mm-hmm. I did Toad with a slightly different voice, you know. And you do. And I did all the voices that I would do when I read to Tash. Mm-hmm. So I did the same scene over, and then went to sit down again. She said, no, would you mind staying there again? Now, bearing in mind, people are coming and going, and I'm like, what's going on here? And we turned to another page and went back to Ratty. And we did that scene, and then she had a few other people, and I remember doing like 4 or 5 different scenes. And then when thank you very much, when I sat down and sat to Tash, I said, how was that? She said, oh, yeah, very good, Dad. It's like you were reading to me. Well, that's what I was doing. Yeah. That's what I was doing. And this is no word of a lie. And sorry, Wendy, but this is absolutely true, and you may remember it if you ever watch this. But Wendy Parsley came over to me with my little bit of paper in my hand, and she says, what do you mean you've got no experience? And I look at her and I go, yeah, I've not done anything from school. No, you must have done. Are you here as a spy from the Playhouse? And I went, no, honestly. And she went off, and she went to speak to Jane, and Jane come back, you really haven't done anything before? I said, no. She said, well, that was very good. Would you be interested in being in it? I went, yeah. She said, well, thank you for coming, and yeah, I'll give you a call. And I went, okay, thank you. And off we went. And literally the next day, Jane rang me and said, would you be Ratty? And I went, pardon? Ratty's one of the main characters. I said, Jane, I've never done anything before. She said, no, I know you. I believe in you. I believe you can do it. Mm-hmm. And that was it. That was the start. September, we started rehearsing. And I fell in love with it. Mm. You know, I knew nothing about upstage, downstage, stage left, stage. I had to learn all of that. You know, beginners to stage. All that terminology was redundant in my brain, or I don't remember any of it at school. So, so it was a massive learning curve.
No, I don't think you learn any of that stuff at school. There's stuff in the theatre that you learn once you're here.
Yeah.
That you pick up along the way.
Yeah.
Like
so unless you went to drama school.
Yes, of course.
So it was a massive learning curve. But, oh, did I enjoy it? Did I enjoy it? Up until the point when I realised, oh, hang on a minute, Ratty is the actual person that starts the play. So there I was, stood on this stage, you know, going through...
Opening up the show.
Yeah, behind this gauze. They had a gauze here which they projected on, and then the gauze was taken away, and there I was with all the kids, with all the little bunny rabbits, you know, extolling the virtues of being on the water, you know.
How did that feel?
Terrifying. I can tell you, my heart was beating out of my chest that very first show. Bearing in mind, it was beating out of my chest through the whole technical run, really.
Yes, yeah, because you knew what was coming.
Yes, and then preparing yourself for an audience, and bearing in mind it was a Christmas show. I can't remember if it was an evening or a matinee performance, but the auditorium was packed, absolutely packed. And I'm just thinking, am I going to remember my lines? Honestly, I'm still palpitating now and remembering. I could hear my heart beating in my head. And then once I delivered the first line, and then we had that first laugh.
Mm-hmm. So why would you do it again then? Why would you do it again if it was so terrifying?
That because we ended up doing 14 shows.
Mm-hmm. So why would you come back?
Because by the 14th, I didn't want it to stop.
Mm. You start to get to like that feeling, don't you?
It was just the camaraderie,
mm-hmm.
the reaction, the audience reaction, getting that, being somebody else. I mean, mm-hmm. I encapsulated Ratty, and I learned as I went on to do other things that the more I could absorb myself within that character, mm-hmm. the better. And I wanted to be better. Mm-hmm. I wanted to do the best. And it got to the point, I remember during one matinee, we'd done at least 5 or 6 shows, and something had dropped on the floor that was just in my shot here. And Keith Mardell was on the lighting desk, and I just completely in character went, oh, and I went down and picked it up and I put it in my pocket, Mm-hmm. And there was times when 1 or 2 actors may have been a bit late, and I remember being on stage and we ad-libbed, just with in character, until that person, oh, there you are, and that excited me as well. The fact that we went off script and Jane didn't go mad or anything, and Keith just said, I love the fact that you did that and you stayed completely in character. Mm-hmm. He said, and that from the moment the curtain went up, you were Ratty. You see some actors, if they're not performing, they lose that, don't they? They can just be themselves, or there's a shadow that comes over them that's them, and then character comes back. And I don't believe I've ever done that, because once
you're in that place of being that character, that's who you are.
Once I'm in the dressing room.
Really?
Oh yeah. Once I'm in the dressing room.
See, for me, it doesn't happen until I walk out onto the stage.
I could converse with you, but in my head I'm still thinking character,
really?
character. Yeah. And during you may or may not remember, during intervals, I would very rarely talk to anybody.
No.
I just wanted to get back out, and I wanted to carry on from where we left off. Mm-hmm. And I think there was more concentration in those early days, because wanting to do a good job, not for me, mm-hmm. but wanting to do a good job for Jane. But that wasn't the crowning glory of that particular performance, mm-hmm. or that particular show. What was the most enjoyable part for me was the rehearsal process.
Right.
And we were rehearsing here. Mm-hmm. So we were in the environment that we knew. We were doing it, 2 nights and weekends. And weekends, every other weekend, because of my divorce arrangement, I had Tash, and weekends I didn't. And the weekends I had Tash, she would come to the audition, mm-hmm. come to the rehearsal, sorry. And I remember that she would sit there with the script, and do prompting, mm-hmm. And she would go off and make cups of tea, mm-hmm. and she would sit next to Jane, and Jane would, and
what a special thing you discovered. What a nice thing to have. Like, I've got it with my children that they've been able to get involved with me with shows, and I can't imagine going through a difficult time like a divorce as well. And like, what do you do with your kids when you're going through a hard time like that?
Yeah,
take them to a restaurant. Most people would do things like that.
Ball plans, those things. Yeah.
Whereas you found a good constructive activity that you can do together, and you can both grow together.
Exactly.
Can't you?
Yeah.
And the bonding that's in that.
Exactly.
That development.
And what was really magical, excuse me, mm-hmm. was a young girl was playing Molly. I say young, she's about 14, and can't remember her name now. Really delightful. But there was a couple of rehearsals, a couple of weekends where she was going on holiday or wherever, wasn't able to do it. And Jane asked Tash if she would read in. And because Tash and I, certainly on the Saturday, would be learning lines, she would help me learning lines. When it came to doing the scenes with Molly, Tash knew the lines. So she came up on the stage and was standing in with me, Steve, Kyle, and Steve's going, "Where's your script?" And Tash says, "Oh, I know the lines." And he's going, "What? You know, Steve, what? He was stunned.
Yeah.
And Jane just said, "Oh, I wish you auditioned. I wish you auditioned, you know, to be in it."
I guess she needed to find a place of comfort first.
Yeah.
Which you was able to show her that this was a safe space.
Yeah, exactly.
You started to get to know the people.
Yeah.
And then what happened next with Tasha getting involved with shows then? Was she keen to do something?
Well, she actually got involved in that show.
Right.
Because one of the girls who's playing Port Liotta suddenly told Jane, "Oh, I can't do 6 shows." And Jane's going, "What?"
Which happens in amateur dramatics. 'Cause
Yeah.
people have got lives and you're not getting paid.
Well, it was
commitments.
you know, her parents were saying, "Well, no, we've got to go away," you know. And Jane just turned to Tash, said, "Would you be to Port Liotta?" And Tash went, "Yes."
So it all worked out.
We did it together.
Brilliant.
So the rehearsal process was fantastic, and then clearly she was coming. Again, there's a slight problem in some respects, because then Tash had to come to rehearsals on Tuesdays and Thursday evenings, which I had to arrange with my ex-wife. She was absolutely fine about. So it was a little bit of running backwards to Stansted, but obviously, you know, no skin off my nose, because it was something I was able to see her extra nights, and you know, they would finish at 9 o'clock, and sometimes Sharon would come and pick Tash up. Other times, you know, I would go take her back. So that was always the case. The kids finished, and then the adults would carry on to 10 o'clock. Do you remember? But vast majority of the time, Jane was able to organise it so that most of the scenes she did was on a Sunday anyway.
On the same time as you.
But mate, honestly, it was I've had happy teary moments about it in many times, talking to the transformation it made to her as an individual as well.
Because when I first met your daughter, I never saw her as anything but confident. I saw her as a confident young lady, and I think the first time I met a Robin Hood, possibly.
Yeah, because she played.
We was doing the Christmas pantomime here, Robin Hood.
Yeah,
and I remember that so vividly. At the end of the show, she sung her own song, didn't she, on the stage
yes.
with the piano to all the cast and crew.
That's right.
It's like a way of saying thank you for this experience.
Yeah. Self-taught piano as well.
Yeah. So I never saw her as someone that was shy or was quiet.
Yeah.
She was just always confident, and
because she was in an environment that she was comfortable with. Take her out of that. So when and I hope she don't mind me saying this, I'm sure she won't. But so when we'd finished doing, I said, "Would you like to go to drama school?" Mm-hmm. She said, "Yeah," and we were aware of Cats. When we went to go to Cats, they were then rehearsing at the Playhouse in one of the studios. We arrived late, unfortunately, because we just messed up the timing. And when I went to take Tash into it and meet Simon, she froze and didn't want to do it, and came away crying and was really disappointed and really upset that because she wanted to get there early, and I missed the timing by half an hour.
I've been there as a parent as well, where I've, when you're younger, you like to be told this is how things are going to be. I know my daughter likes that. I know my son likes that. He likes to know exactly how it's going to be, how the day's going to plan out. Exactly. And then if a mistake comes in, it's very hard it throws them, and it even throws a lot of us as adults, doesn't it? When things change.
Yeah.
And so, but I think it's harder for children, and I've made very similar errors with both of my kids, telling them this is how today's going to go,
and they're all prepped
in their mind. They're all prepped, and they've got the confidence there to do it the way that you've said it will happen, and then you've made this mistake, and you can't go back on it, can you? Like, how did you rectify that?
Well, we left it a bit, and then we went to Kate Milner.
Yes, yeah.
Mentioned that she was a drama teacher at the Playhouse Theatre School, and because Tash then knew Kate, we then got in very early to go to Playhouse Theatre School, which they used to do on a Saturday morning, and she went there instead until that came to an end. And then she tried, what's the one at Burnt Mill? It was like
so you were still actively guiding her in this direction, keeping her moving,
within it, because it was limited. Playhouse Theatre School in some ways was limited in what they did. It will come to me the name of the other one. It was run by a professional actor, and they would do an hour of singing, an hour of dance, and an hour of acting. And it was at Burnt Mill School, and that was good because she got to learn all three skills. But that was quite an expensive quarterly thing.
Yeah, and these things tend to be quite an expensive activity to get your children into. Whereas the amateur...
Worth every penny.
It is worth every penny, yeah, I completely agree. It's difficult for some parents, though, to do that outside of school activity, whereas the amateur dramatics tends to be either free or very, very affordable.
Minimum.
Because it tends to be about a community of people coming together, and sometimes there'll be a book fee, because there might be a fee to put on the play, so they put a book fee on. But it's different from classes, isn't it, being part of an amateur dramatics group and doing the shows with an amateur dramatics community than it is doing the classes. So there is opportunity there for people that can't perhaps afford.
But it's fantastic grounding. I mean, the fact that she went to those two, and then eventually when, she's not bored or whatever, I can't remember, but we were involved in another production, and she got to know one of the other people that was already then going to Cats. She was persuaded to, fortunately for me, monetary-wise, she stopped doing that and then went to join Cats. Within the senior years, so I think the last 3 or 4 or 5 years, she ended up staying with Cats and absolutely thoroughly enjoyed it, and ended up becoming, one of the tutors, not tutors. When they get the seniors, carry on
help
for
with
the
juniors,
younger
juniors,
and became really good friends with Simon and Caroline, and would babysit for Simon and Caroline, and they almost became secondary adoptive parents. So it was fantastic, and for her it went. It gave her that grounding that the first thing she wanted to do when she was to go to uni was to join the Musical Theatre Society and the drama group, and she did.
Wonderful.
And I thought she would really be interested in doing it as a career, but no, English was her passion, and a little bit like she gets that from me, because going back to my artistic side, before drama, my passion has always been music. I've been a big musical fan for many years, gone through many different genres, and as a let me take you right back. Let me take you right back.
How far are we going?
We're going to go back
to school.
We're going back to me as a child.
Wow.
As an only child. Yeah, no brothers or sisters. So outside of playing with friends and lots of friends, lots of school friends, but those wintry nights when you have to be in early and you have to entertain yourself, which I did.
And you couldn't do. And these days, kids spend a lot of time at home, don't they? Not like it used to be. You used to be out back in the day. Well, and then when you came home, you needed to find ways to entertain yourself. You didn't have mobile phones and computers, did you?
You would during in daylight hours. Summers were great, but in those, I just remember it being cold, wet days when what am I going to do? And I would end up entertaining myself in many different ways, because you had to, like building Lego. But I would be telling stories and doing it. And my granddad heard me doing it one day. I guess I don't know, I was about 7, 8 or 9. But I remember him giving me this old reel-to-reel, Grundig reel-to-reel tape recorder. And you probably think, what the hell is that?
I can imagine the type of thing it is, like for recording your voice onto.
Yeah, it's a big box with these reels. Some people will know it, certainly of my age anyway. and it would have a little microphone on it, and then you would imagine it as a big cassette recorder, but you could see the reels. And I was fascinated by it, and he showed me how to use it, and I would create little stories, or I would do these things for him and record it on this tape. And then, because when my parents, certainly during the school holidays, my mum was back to work, I would go and spend time with my granddad, and I would then, he would then listen to those stories, and then he'd give me, you should try this, you should try that, and he used to coach me, into that. Why don't you try and put some music on it? And he would take me over to the radiogram and put, and so I ended up becoming a little 8-year-old DJ.
What a good idea. I started this and I said, I'm learning so much from people, and people are giving me, like I say, I'm developing so many skills from doing this. But there's also things that are happening in my life at the moment. So my nephew, he's 10 years old and he wants to be a writer.
Oh, brilliant.
And he keeps coming to me for advice, and he keeps asking me questions, and I keep giving him little bits. And I've been thinking about, how can I develop that? How can I give him some encouragement? How can I have something to give to him that he goes away and does and comes back to me?
You can share and you can mentor.
So things that I've done so far is I bought him a special writing pen. So he's got a pen that he writes with and a book that he writes in a particular book. But I'm thinking that now I'm going to say to him, go away and record the story and send me the recording of the story.
Brilliant.
I think that's a really, really nice idea.
Yeah.
And a nice way that your granddad engaged with you with that storytelling.
Exactly, yeah. And being, just being a little entertainer, And he got as much pleasure out of it as I did creating it, and that was it. And I would then do these voices. So I would create many. My head was so full of different voices, a little bit like when I did the Ratty thing, and I would be all the characters within this thing. So I guess in many respects that was acting.
That was a training ground.
Yeah. Way before school, or certainly before ever doing any drama school.
What do you think you learnt from that?
Good question. I've never thought. I don't know. I've learnt that you can give somebody pleasure by creating that thing that I did. He got something out of it, and my nan would laugh.
Yeah.
I mean, they were my audience. It didn't go beyond any of that. But for me, I got pleasure out of it.
And they received pleasure as well.
Yeah. So moving on, I used to create a drum set when my mum would go out. I would get all the pots and pans out, and I'd entertain myself playing drums as you would, and then she'd come in. I'd be using the wooden spoons. All right, pack that noise in, pack it away. I remember getting a record deck of my own. I was about 10, 11, and my parents had a record deck, a portable one, and I would set those up with the little Grundig radio, and then I was doing that for years. So I couldn't wait to get involved in, that was it. I could just see myself as a DJ. And I thought, because I used to listen to Tony Blackburn on the radio, and, I can do that. And I did. At the earliest as I can, I met a guy called Zulga Chima. So Chima's not very well known in the town through many things. He's a videographer now, but he's been involved in the music scene. He was a DJ at my local disco in Harlow, and I just remember watching him, because I was fascinated. In this little window, I was only a little, however old I was, 14, 15, when you could go to the youth club for the first time. And he encouraged me in. He's only a couple of years older than me, but there was these two decks, proper decks, with this sound coming out of the disco, and he was controlling it and making people dance. And, within 2 years, that was me. And then we moved it from there out onto a stage. And
how did you move into that? How did you move into that world of actually doing it? The idea of you were a kid playing with these toys essentially, and you had this imagination that I would like to do this one day. How did you take that step into that world of DJing?
I just followed my nose. I just I knew. I guess that period between doing that, going to school, senior school, and knowing that there was this youth club that you could go to, which was free. you know, you just go and buy drinks over. I don't remember ever paying it. And there it was on a Thursday, you know, Thursday, Friday nights, I think it was, there would be a disco. And I wanted to know what was going on, who was doing it, and I wanted to be involved.
You hear so much about the importance of youth clubs and the lack of them now. Do you feel that there's something that is missing in the world these days?
100%. Because, I mean, again, we never had those toys and gimmicks. And, you know, you can't sit in front of the TV 5 nights a week. You know, it's no good for you. You need that social activity outside of the school environment as well, don't you? Because you could play pool, you could play bar billiards.
I think in those places you find your people. Yeah. In a school environment, you're thrown together with a group of people that you simply put there because you've got the same postcode.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And that's the reason that you're there.
Well, typically they'd be, still be friends you would know from your neighbourhood.
Yes, and so there would be some people that you get on with.
But you meet new people.
But you meet different people, don't you, in the things that you have enjoyment with.
Yeah.
You meet new people playing games like pool and getting involved with DJing
Foosball.
and or getting involved with an amateur dramatics group. Yeah. That's where you discover different types of people, and you get to engage with different age groups as well. Yeah. In a different way. Yeah. I know for me, if I think back to the youth stuff that I did, it was very much about, that was my first experience of dealing with adults that weren't in an authority position, like a teacher. Mm-hmm. They were someone that may be mentoring or guiding, and giving caring in a different way. Yeah, I mean nurturing. Yeah, yeah. And there would always be, volunteers there doing that role, and trying to keep. I don't remember many fights or arguments. There was no knives. Mm-hmm. None of that was going on. Was there? There would be the occasional, gang from Latin Bush or something that would come. But again, it was always a minority. The vast majority of people just were there for A, because they liked the music, B, they liked the activities. Mm-hmm. And, we were all 14, 15. We were getting into the other sex, we were, hello, my first kiss was at a disco, Yes, so that's taking you somewhere, hasn't it, Tony? I can see it in your eyes now. There was a little glisten. I can even tell you the song that was playing. Can you? You can remember that, can you? But isn't it funny where our minds go as we start to go down these journeys? Even I was like, I don't remember my first kiss, and then I was like, oh yes, I do. I remember on the top of a slide in the park, and it's funny, isn't it? How I haven't thought about that in a very long time. Yeah. Yeah, and it was just and actually being asked by a girl to dance, because I was that shy boy still until I knew people. Your backs were against the wall, waiting for the things you could dance with your fellas. As soon as the slow songs come on, back to the wall, back there, hiding with your coke, and your little lemonade. Yes, yeah. And then, would you come and dance with me? What? Yeah. So I got the buzz of being that DJ and creating that entertainment space was what I wanted to do, because there's some really good, like any art, you can have some very good people. You need to understand your audience, don't you? Mm-hmm. And I've always, this is me blowing my own trumpet, I guess, but I've always known what people like. What is the theme? What's going to get people in enjoyment through experience? Learning that through other DJs, well, I know that works, and I know that doesn't work, and being able to deal with those people that want to play something that they really like, but that doesn't fit in, and then dealing with that situation and saying, yeah, I will play that a little bit later, because at the moment you're playing to the majority, and you will serve that minority. And you let them know that will come later, because if you put it in now, it will just be them dancing, As a DJ, how do you discover the vibe of the room? Experience, 100% experience. First of all, you need the people to have some of this, because the weddings. They're like anything. You can go to a wedding and you could be there all day. You could be there just playing background music. You might be providing the microphone for the speeches, and then you play background music. And then
they'll be ready for their first dance. You think, oh, they'll do the first dance and everybody will be up and ready. But no, you know, it's like anything. Once people have had a few drinks, and then the vast majority, the ladies will always get up first. There'll always be a little group of ladies who will come, and the kids will be running around, you know. But there's a pattern, and you can't play all the good songs early. You need to play those slow warm up ones because they all have a pattern. You've been to many weddings, and you'll know that if you start at 8 o'clock, nothing will happen till 9 o'clock, or maybe even 9:30. And then at 12 o'clock, when everyone's on the dance floor and you've got to say, sorry, you've got to pack up now, you know, everyone wants you to carry on.
Everyone wants more.
Yeah, everyone more because they're really having a good time. I said, well, if you started, you know, an hour earlier, but it's not the way. So you have to read a room. Now, weddings, birthdays, very different events. Birthdays normally start much quicker. So it depends on the event. Like I've done, I used to work with a friend, and he would help me out because it's very difficult sometimes just do an event like that. And he used to say we would cover from the cradle to the grave. And I have done wakes, I have done first birthday parties, 14th, 15th, 16th, bar mitzvahs, 21sts, 10th anniversaries, one family, for 20 years almost, I was their go-to DJ. So I started in the 80s and I finished, my very last gig was 31st December 1999 because I said as soon as I don't enjoy it anymore, I will stop. And sure enough, there was it was like, this can also be an evil thing and people would have too much of it. And
so whilst it can help relax the atmosphere in the room, it can actually turn the room a bit sour as well at times.
If there's friction within families, it could spark off, and sometimes it would come and it would ruin your night. So like anything, I also did hospital radio, and I had the opportunity of becoming a professional DJ. And a little bit like Tash, coming back to Tash could have been a professional actor, no problem at all. It's not an easy business, but she could have, definitely turned her hand to it. I'm not saying she would have been a star, but she could have easily earned good money in it. But for her, it was a hobby. It was something she enjoyed. She's always liked the security of that day job or that thing, which is a bit like me in many respects, because you knew that. You just don't know where your career would have gone had I been successful. I did many auditions as a DJ and got close, as exactly as if you would be an actor. And I know that DJs that are performing now and still are the same people that I went to, and I wouldn't say I was up against, but I was the competition for them, and they made it. And well done for them.
What type of DJing would that have been?
Radio DJ.
Radio DJ.
Yeah, radio DJ.
And so was there a point where you were kind of making a choice that's not for you?
I was offered a job, and it was a job to do 10 o'clock at night on a radio station in London. So, and just once a week, and and I'd not long been married, and you have to get into London, get there for 9 o'clock to start, and then you're not going to be back till 1 o'clock.
So the balance of work and life, it would have taken away the enjoyment if you'd have done that job, I guess.
But I was DJing, doing my mobile stuff very busily, and I was going to get more money for doing that in my own time.
Right. Okay.
And so it was that balance of this could be your step into doing. It was it was a fantastic opportunity.
Yeah.
And I turned it down because I don't know. You know what? I kick myself to this day. Why did I turn it down? What was I frightened of? There was something that stopped me, and I was frightened because, again, would it have been coming out of my comfort zone? I knew the studio. I knew, what to do. But faced with an audience of millions listening, potentially, frightened me. And dealing with an audience of 100 didn't frighten me. But it's just a number. I still entertain those people.
So you got caught up in the idea of the audience. What was you thinking about at that time when you was thinking about the large numbers? What was going through your mind?
I had to have a conversation with my wife, because it meant every Saturday. That was it. So I was working Mondays to Fridays in London, and then Saturday nights, where would my social life be? It would be Friday nights and Sundays, wouldn't it?
So you didn't really want to make that sacrifice for that big change, did you? Is what it sounds like.
No, because I didn't want it to affect my marriage. Because, we were at that, we're not so at that stage, but we're thinking of family, you know. Having said that, it was 10 years later before we had Tash, but I had the opportunity, and I turned it down because of the other stuff I was doing. At one point in time, I was DJing 3 nights a week, doing my club DJing. Before the mobile DJing, I was earning more money 3 nights a week than I was earning at the bank doing Monday to Friday. But it was affecting my work because I was out late on a Thursday, on a Monday night, on a Thursday night.
So being a DJ was a side hustle to you doing a normal 9 to 5 working in a bank?
Yeah, commuting into London. So you imagine, you know, I'd be working in London, finishing at typically midnight, not getting home till 1:30, driving, getting up at 6 o'clock in the morning to get the train. I'd sleep on the train. I'd get through the day. I would get some lunch, and I would sleep during my lunch times. And it affected my work. It did affect my work.
Yeah.
So.
No, it is hard to find that balance between the creative pursuit and doing a normal job.
I loved it. I wouldn't have stopped doing it.
No.
But what stopped me going professional was my family.
Yes.
Principally, and my social life, and the fact that I'd stopped the nightclub DJing at that point, and I'd moved on to mobile DJing, because the nightclub DJing was great when I was single, but as a married person, it wasn't practical. Plus, we'd moved away, and work. There was a few elements of it that didn't work. So so I'll go into mobile DJing, because then you can just pick and choose. And I thought, even if I do one a month, that'll be fine, whatever it would be. Within a year, I had a diary that was pretty much filled nearly every weekend. Crazy. And that was going on at the same time. So I would have had to let a lot of people down, weddings and stuff. And all that was going on.
So do you think you ever truly meant to be doing the professional DJing then? Because would you be where you are today? Would the thing you said, this was before you had your daughter? Would that have happened? You see how sliding doors moment, isn't it? So was you ever actually? You say it's really hard, that thing of regret and looking back and going, I wish I'd treated that moment differently, because if we'd have done anything different, you wouldn't be here now in the way things are now.
If I wasn't married, it would have been a different story. Yeah, I got married at 24, and by 26, I had this opportunity. Bearing in mind, I've been going to auditions from 21. Different. I was going up and down the country. Birmingham. I went to, I went to Newcastle, Wolverhampton, Cardiff, Bristol. I was going to all these, stations, these new commercial stations that are popping up, and just through experience. But I wanted to work in London. I wanted to get into one particular radio station, and I kept pursuing it. And I was making it known that I was doing that. And like any job like that, you get offered the T-boy job. Okay, come do this. Because this is your door in. But I would have gone backwards. That's what you had to do. You had to become the T-boy first, or the runner.
You had to start again at the bottom, and that's a huge sacrifice as we get older and have responsibilities and families, marriage, etc., social life. It's hard to take a step back, isn't it? It's hard to start again.
But the creativeness of what I was doing. Answering your question in terms of knowing my audience, I learned all that through experience. So, again, I really don't want this to be a platform where I'm blowing my own trumpet, but when you do something that other people appreciate, when you do something that other people appreciate, then people come and ask for your business card. That leads to another. I never ever advertised my job as a DJ. as a mobile disco. It one thing led to another, led to another, led to another.
Why do you think people were like that with you?
Because they had a good time, and they would say, I want you for my event, you know. But because you're going to an event where all of a sudden you've got 100 new customers, 200 new customers, 300 new customers, you know, because each event would get bigger and bigger and bigger. You know, marquees in the back of gardens, and you know, the owner at the end of it, or the dad coming at the end of it saying, "Here's an extra £300. You know, thank you very much. That was a great night. You know, you should be charging more." You know,
Yes, yeah.
It's like, well, okay, you know. So, yeah, that was it. Knowing your audience and just making sure that when it came to the very last, people wanted more. They wanted more, and that was, if you stopped when they wanted more,
then they'll more often than not ask for more.
Yeah.
In giving you more work.
And that moves on into theatre as well. So when I stopped in 1999,
So yeah, you mentioned 1999. There must have been that was quite a turning point. The end of the millennium.
Yeah.
The start of a new one. What happened there then?
I'd just before that, I'd started to develop as my singing career, I guess, if you call it singing career. So I karaoke, I think, had just started, and I ended up going to a karaoke party, I think. And
when you say karaoke started, what it became?
Yeah, late 90s.
It started to become like popular, did it?
Yeah. From what I remember, about late night, maybe mid to late 90s. You know, there would be the little bars would pop up. It was about that time, and I remember just going to after work, went and I said, I sang a song. The next thing I know, everyone's going, "Oh, sing another one." You know, like, what? Okay. And for years, my wife had told me, "Oh, you can't sing." So I thought, well, okay, there's something in this. I was losing the enjoyment of the DJing. I was putting my price up and up and up because,
Because you get to a point with that kind of thing that you can.
Yes.
That you've got the reputations building and people are willing to pay what you're asking.
Yeah.
So you add another tenner on, don't you?
Yeah.
And you add another tenner and £50 extra.
And Tash is 3 years old now, you see. So it's impacting on my time with her. You know, while I had moved into a self-employed role, I was working evenings instead of daytime. So that all of the dynamic had changed with it. But it came to the 31st, I just thought, I've had a really good 20 years of doing this, you know. 20 years, or 1999. Yeah, I guess it was. I started in 1979.
Wow.
I started. And not as professional. I think my first professional, actually being paid as a DJ, I was 19. It was in 1980. And then 1999 was my last one. So let's call it 20 years. And I just said, that's it.
You just kind of knew that was a good place.
What a party to go out on, the 31st of December, 1999.
Place to leave it, yeah.
Yeah, and I was with an agency, and he said, "What's your price?" And I told him what the price was, and he went, "You're never going to get that." I said, "That's my price for New Year's Eve." Otherwise,
because everyone wanted a DJ that night, didn't they?
Yeah, and I said, "Look, if that's my price," I said, "Someone will pay it. Someone will pay it." And no, you're ridiculous. They said it's £2,000 more than anyone was charging. I said, and bearing in mind this was at least 18 months before it, you know, are you available? Are you going to be available? Yes, I will. This is my price. Because I wanted to go out and enjoy it.
Yes, yeah.
You know, I thought my last one was going to be in December, but I said if I'm going to go out on a bang, 31st December, I'll do it. And sure enough, a guy, this venue, this DJ that has booked at this venue, got a better offer. And so he did the dirty, and they said, right, you know, could you do it for that money? I went, no, I told you it's this money. They won't take it. Well, they did. They did. Big corporate event. And it was one of the worst nights of my life in many respects, at midnight.
Okay.
Because two idiots completely... I had it all set out, what I was going to do. And cut long story short, because I didn't play Old Lang Syne bang on midnight, I was playing a few party songs because people were still enjoying it, you know.
Yes, yeah.
He's coming up in my face, play Old Lang Syne, play Old Lang Syne. In a minute. And he's rattling, drunk, you know, and he's rattling and the DJ's mixing. I'm going, whoa, whoa, whoa. And I'm like, can I have a bouncer, please? And bouncers having a good time.
Yeah, yeah.
And he's saying, honestly, awful. And I couldn't wait to finish it. You know, it's supposed to be going on till 2:00 in the morning. And he just stared me out for the rest of the night. So I got the money.
It's almost like you needed to be shown that night that this definitely was putting this to bed.
Yeah.
This definitely was the end.
Yeah. Yeah. So really, I didn't care what happened to the equipment. You know, I literally sold it the next few weeks later. And I went out and bought a karaoke set to go and do karaoke entertaining instead. And it actually, not immediately, but you know, I think I had about 2 or 3 years, but it didn't seem like any time at all that I did that. So that was the end of one genre of my life, and then moved into doing the singing for a little while, and literally, you know, 4 years after packing up, here we were auditioning for this.
It's almost like there's a creative side of you that was always being pulled towards something in the entertainment industry.
Yeah.
In some way you needed to be involved, didn't you?
And it was like anything, it was fate. I wouldn't have never ever thought to have done it. Maybe possibly another avenue, someone might have mentioned it, but well.
And for all this time, you've always managed to have a full-time job, haven't you? These have always been either hobbies or side jobs.
Always, yeah.
Hobbies and side jobs, but you've always had that full-time job there.
Yeah.
And that's quite a challenge, isn't it? It you know, very demanding when we worked at the bank together. It was a very demanding role there.
Tasks.
A lot of
and targets.
Targets. You know, a lot of them are unreasonable and unrealistic. But the pressure would be on to meet with those targets, or you could, you know, lose your job or get pressure.
But this was the stress relief, wasn't it? Because some people go out and drink, some people go out and play golf, you know, go and smash a ball around with a racket.
Yeah.
For me, it was to come out and, you know, express myself on stage. And what a way to do it. You know, that was,
And would you recommend that to someone if there's someone listening that works in somewhere like a bank, to try and find a creative pursuit like this?
You don't want to be a square peg in a round hole, because I don't think it's for everybody. You clearly need to have that artistic nature to you, because, you know, I've met people that have come along, think they can do it, and can make your life within a play a misery because, you know, I can do this, and then
they don't kind of really get the commitment that's involved, or
the
process,
or they just don't sometimes have the aptitude. So I would say yes, but, you know, be prepared to do small steps. This particular individual didn't, and it was like, wow, okay, that was you know.
Tell me about that experience. When you found someone you came across someone that. So we don't name names on this, but
can I name a name who directed it?
As long as we're talking them in a good light.
100% in a good light. This particular, because he was the victim,
right? In
many respects, your friend and my friend, Jim Thompson.
Right. Okay.
And
we talk about Jim Thompson all the time. Jim's my number one listener. Hello, Jim.
And Jim literally rang me, and we had a conversation about this recently with the play that I'm currently in now. Hence the beard. This is me growing it for the next part, if I can plug it. And I was ringing him, not in desperation, but in, Jim, do you remember that conversation when you rang me to say, I could really do you a favour? By coming in and helping you with the confusions. Gosford's Fate is the final one of Alan Ayckbourn's. You're familiar with it, are you?
Not too familiar, no.
Okay. So there's actually 4 plays, but it was run as 3. I can't remember. Hang on, you were in it, weren't you? Yes, you was. You were the salesman. Was you not? Was you not in it?
No. I was a salesman in one of Andy Pragnall's plays.
Yeah.
Walk the Walk. Well, no, I wasn't. I wasn't a salesman in that. I was a TV presenter.
That's right. But I directed that much later on, actually, with Pam Self-Pearson taking over your role.
Oh, right. Oh, yes, you did, didn't you? You redid it.
Yeah. That was my first venturing into directing.
Right.
I thought you were in it as the salesman. Right at the beginning, you were a travelling salesman. Was it not you then?
No.
So Rick
Munns.
Mm-hmm. He was a waiter, a deaf waiter, with Bernard being in it, and then Rick. There was a crossover. I keep hitting your microphone. Sorry. So Caroline was in it. Rick. People that were well established and that we knew really, really well, and there was one missing piece. Stuart, who was in Gosforth's Fate, is the scout leader, who's married or who's engaged to a girl called Marion, who is having an affair with Gosforth. And this particular guy, who wanted to be a lead role, had done a couple of small parts before, and Jim, out the goodness of heart, said, "Okay, you come and be in Gosforth," because it's a 3-act play. I can't remember how long it lasts, but Jim said, "Oh, I could really just, if you could come and help me coach this guy," and I went, "Yeah, no problem, Jim. It's only a small part, but please." I said, "Yeah." So, and I knew the actor concerned because we'd done a couple of other things before. But he was struggling learning lines, and direction, and we weren't far from production week, and Jim was pulling his hair out, and we were all, because the confusion reigned literally, and basically there's a technical part where he's supposed to be arranging the microphones to do the announcement at the end. And the Marion character saying, we have to break it off, because, Stuart's asked me to marry him, and he's not really concentrating. The character's not supposed to be correcting. Well, not only was the character not able to concentrate, nor was this particular actor. And Jim had said to me just before the production run, he says, "You have free reign with Stuart." He said, "I don't care if you want a scene still, because, upstage, whatever, because you need
something needs to
happen to take away the blankness in it. It wasn't. There were 3 people that were just looking at each other. Bearing in mind they'd been rehearsing it for ages. I came along with only about 4 weeks to learn this particular part, which wasn't a big particular part. But I just remember me and Rick in the wings going, "What can we do?" Because they're just staring at each other with an audience. So so it isn't for everybody.
It isn't for everyone. And I've had similar experiences with people in amateur dramatics that I thought, why are you here?
Why are you putting yourself through this?
Why are you putting yourself through this? Because it's painful for everyone. And you do need to consider: are you that way inclined? Do you want to put the energy and the effort into this? Because it is a craft.
Yeah.
It isn't just turning up to be part of a social club, is it?
No.
It's turning up to do and create something.
And you have to have a passion for it, like anything. I mean, in my character, I've always not been a complete perfectionist, but if I do anything, I want to do it to my best of my ability. If I can't do it to my best ability, I'll move on to something else. So, for instance, if it's a skill thing and I just can't, I don't have the capability of achieving that skill to the level that I want to do it, because you need the time that you just don't have, then, okay.
Now's not the moment to do it then.
Yeah, I'll find something else. And, when I did fall into acting, and bearing in mind you do these things sporadically, don't you? It's not like every week. You for 6 or 7 or 8 weeks you intensify yourself in it. You, in many respects, you quite like the break at the end of it.
Yes, yeah.
But it's not long before that. Oh, I want to get into something else, isn't it?
So when you started doing this, you got into this world of amateur dramatics. Have you since had a big pause, or have you been quite consistently doing stuff?
There's been a big pause since lockdown, and through meeting my lovely partner now and us travelling. So travelling's been my new passion. So that's made it difficult to get involved in many things. But I got involved in the first Hats production, which was great. That was another second time I was involved in Romeo and Juliet.
So it's been fairly consistent, hasn't it? You've been doing something every year, every 18 months.
Yeah, if not on stage, I also enjoy the technical side of it as well.
Yeah.
So with
because you've done technical for me as well, haven't you?
Yes, I have. Yeah,
You
with
did Dracula.
Dracula,
you was running the sound, I believe.
I've still got a lot of the backing tracks that I found. Did that, and what else? One of your Christmas shows. I think I helped out with. Anyway, so I mean, you and I have worked both sides on and off stage. So I'd say pretty much every year, and I even got involved last year with the local amateur society in Spain.
Right.
So I thought, well, why not?
How different is that there? Is it what we call expats?
All expats.
Yeah.
This is all. A couple of one German, one Spanish in the group that I'm involved with, but pretty much nearly all expats. Mm. Yeah, I'm 63. I'm one of the younger generation.
Oh, really?
In the group. So it has its some own challenges. Excuse me, in many respects. The standard is more typical of an amateur theatre. Mm-hmm. There are still some good shining lights, but there are still some people that try hard but don't quite achieve the level that you would like. You know. So, but not all companies have the same standards, do they? So
no.
If we're going to give praise to anybody, I think the thing with Harlow Theatre Company is they've always had a high standard, and moving on to Heath players have kept that as well. I've never ever been in a production where there's been a prompt, and I think that's good, because if there is a prompt, people then realise that a crutch and it doesn't work. No. So it's nice to know that you've got to rely on each other, and it is, as an ensemble piece. You need the person you're working with to give you your line, so you can do your line, and so on and so forth, don't you? So.
Yes, yeah. And I guess that's harder if you say you're the youngest of the group out there in Spain. As you get older, it's harder to remember the lines, isn't it?
Well, this is
it's a big thing.
And I'm sure Steve won't mind me saying that when I asked him about my play, he's saying no, that the age is catching up with him. Even Bernard, when he did The Last Romance with me, with Jan Stacey, and we took that to Hartford and we won the audience award, which is all I wanted. Bernard had a big piece to do, and he won't mind me. Have you interviewed Bernard?
Bernard's been on this.
He has been. I thought he had.
He was quite early on.
Didn't he mention about it?
I think he did. Yes.
Yeah, it was like his swan song, and but you know what? Just with that pure encouragement and working with Jan, he rose above himself, because I'd been in another play with him where he'd struggled a bit. And by his own admission, it's because of his increasing age, increasing years. And Martin Bedwell and Steve have now both said it's just difficult to learn lines and retain those lines.
Do you think it helps us as we get older to do an activity like this, acting, amateur dramatics?
Yeah, I think anything that engages your brain, definitely. I think it's quite important that you can do something that you can keep your memory ticking over. Because, I mean, I guess I don't have that issue at the moment. So Steve's 10, 11 years older than me, I think. I can't remember. So, ask me in 10, 11 years' time, it might be a different... I mean, what's Bernard now? Nearly 80?
Gosh, I don't know, yeah.
So yeah. I think if I could still do this when I'm 80 and not be worried about learning lines, I'll be very grateful.
How do you hope to get there?
What, to 80?
No, to be still doing this at that age. Is it through being persistent and keeping those memory muscles working?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Finding pieces that you want to do, and not doing pieces for the sake of it. Oh, they're going to do that. Oh, I'll be in it. No, don't do that. Only follow the things that you really are going to be interested in. Because if you've got a passion for it and you've got a passion for that character, then you will do the best you can, and that's been my mantra. Whenever I've auditioned, I will zone in on a part, and I will give all of my attention to that part. And then, of course, if you get that phone call and you don't get it, oh, fair enough, okay, because I didn't meet I guess in the mind's eye of the director, I didn't get it. Never mind, And if they offer you, and I've turned parts down when they offer, say, oh, would you be this? So, in my early days, I'd have accepted it, and then yeah. And then I've watched the person do the one that I
Do
wanted
the
to do,
part
and
you
you
should
go,
do.
I could have done a better job than that. But of course, we all say that. We all think we can do better. But at the end of the day, like any art, it's in the eye of the director, isn't it? So, yeah. If I can find pieces that make me passionate about still doing it, then I'll carry on doing it. Yeah, 100%.
So what are you up to now? What's happening right now? I know you're involved with a play at the moment.
Yeah, so this is a play that the Heath did back in 2008, which when I went, Caroline Petherbridge, I sort of vaguely knew of the Heath players, but Caroline said, would you like to come to a play reading? Because they're reading this part. Okay, I got this script and I'm looking at the character ages and it says 4 grandparents between 78 and 80. Okay, I'm 48. No, I think that's a little bit old for me. Oh, and the grandson, well, no, he's like 30-something. So why have you brought me to this, Caroline? And we were sitting in Dot Sharp's, wherever they constantly do, well, that's where they do their readings at Dot's, lovely Dot. And we just read this, we were reading the script, and Frank Gianelli was the Gianelli's families, and Nunzio, the 2 male roles, and Nick's the young one. And we all took turns in going around, and it just so happened that I got to Frank's bit where he has a monologue. And Frank talks like this, you see. I just found this voice in Frank. You know the trouble with those stories, Nick? You tell them, and people don't change. They just do the same thing over and over. This is still...
It's still there.
They're still there, and I've obviously gone back to it, and it's a beautiful story about when he's 14 years old, his father in Italy puts him on a boat. So the play's set in the 1980s, so Frank would have been born at the turn of the century, or there or thereabouts. And during the 1920s, maybe early 1910, 1920, Italy was in a very bad situation. So there was lots of Italian immigrants coming out and going to America, going all around the world, coming to Wales, because it was a very poor place to be, very difficult way to live. So when he was 14, Frank, by his father, says, "Look, here's 200 lira. You're going to go to America. You're going to make a new life for yourself." And he gets put on a boat, and he turns up, supposedly going to a cousin, to find that his cousin's gone to a faraway land called Brooklyn. And Hoboken, New Jersey, is a big Italian enclave, from what I understand, where Frank Sinatra comes from. So Frank Sinatra hails from Hoboken. So for 6 weeks, he lives under the pier of the Hudson River every minute of every day, trying to figure out a way that he can earn enough money to get back home. And it's just a beautiful opening. So there's lots of pieces to the audience, painting the picture. And the 4 grandparents come on and they give their background. And Nick, their grandson, is the only remaining grandson who stayed within New York to stay and meet his grandparents every Sunday for dinner, because all the other children have moved away. And Nick says, actually, he has a conversation with his sister, say, the great thing about living in America is you can move 4,000 miles away from your family but still be in the same country. And Frank says to Nick, "Hey, Nick, why your parents moved to Florida? Because why are you going away?" And Nick has to come and tell them that actually he's been offered a job in Seattle. So, of course, they're devastated. Their only remaining grandson is now going to be going away. And Frank talks about the fact that, he's got a great grandson that he's seen exactly twice. He's 3 years old, he's seen him twice. So it's a beautiful story because it's funny in that he and his wife have these little battles about, should he be driving, should he not be driving. So it's funny, it's touching, and it's a beautiful piece of written work by a guy called Joe DiPietro, who's more famous for his musicals, I Love You, You're Perfect Now, Change, Memphis,
Yes.
and mostly in Broadway. But he wrote these around about 2004, 2005, 2006, these 3 plays, 2 of which I've been involved with. One was The Last Romance, which Bernard and Jan were in, which we took to Hartford. And I knew, if we could win the audience award, I knew it would appeal to the audience in Hartford, and it did. So one of my greatest achievements ever, I think, in terms of, coming with an idea, reading this play, getting two people to do it the way you want to do it, and then the audience loving it, coming back to that audience appreciation. So it comes back to knowing what your audience want. And in 2008, we did it in the Heath to fantastic packed out audiences, and I managed to get away with playing an 80-year-old with some fantastic makeup, fantastic coaching by Jim of just being old and getting up and because you're old now. But now I'm actually 63. I'm getting more like I can be that old.
You feel like you're closer to the part now. So,
yeah.
Out of all of the productions that you've done over the years, why revisit this one now?
Excellent question. So in 2010, we take it to the Hartford Festival. And it's a one-off performance. You just do one. So it starts on a Monday, finishes on a Saturday. So there are 6 performances, different companies, the Barn Theatre, Company of Players, HDOS, and all companies in and around Hartford put on a 2-act play, and it's adjudicated by an adjudicator, and then there are up to 5 awards you can win. The Adjudicators Award, the Best Stage Presentation, the Audience Appreciation Award, an award, a special Adjudicators Award for the adjudicator gives away 2 awards for an individual or something, and the overall prize, Audience Award, and then the actual backstage people give an award, and there's a runner-up prize. We won all 5 prizes. The only one we didn't win was the second, coming second, and that was like whoa! That was not unheard of. And in the 60 years of history, I remember Steve saying it's unheard of for any company to come along and take every single award. And the adjudicator acknowledged that, and he said, "This is one of the best pieces of theatre I've seen. Funny, touching, the way that and he complimented the whole team from backstage to every individual. Martin particularly was given. Martin did a fantastic job as Nunzio, and I know I did a really good job. I know I did a really good job. But we had the opportunity to go on to what effectively would have been a national final, skipping a regional and going to a national final. We were given this adjudicator was at a point where he said, we can put you to the national final. She's done over 2 weeks, I believe. And it was going to be in July, unfortunately during the holiday period when one of the actors had booked a cruise and couldn't do it. So I was already ready to go and do my last performance as Frank, and it got taken away from me, Steve, everybody. Steve is the director. So there's like a longing to complete the task. Haunting to do this, and I've kept mentioning. I've said, we should do it again. We got different audiences, we could do it, And Steve Foster said it's one of the best pieces of things that he's ever done, and he don't think he doesn't want to think he can be beaten, but he's given me his blessing to go and do it as originally a director, but we couldn't get it cast as Nunzio because of, we'll just say politics, and we'll end it there because you and I have had a backstage discussion. I've spoken to many people that have been within Harlow who said that they couldn't do it for one reason or another. And
this happens in amateur dramatics, doesn't it? That there's drama on and off the stage,
yes,
and political debates, and that can be often very disruptive, can't it? And you've seen that disruption in that you're trying to put this show together, and the politics and the drama off the stage is stopping the thing from happening.
It's created many hurdles, and because it's a senior role, it's got to be played by somebody at least.
So you found it really difficult to find someone to play this part. So what's the answer then? How have you managed to move forward?
I wanted to act and direct pipe dream. So I spoke to the guy that I originally cast, because I was directing it, and said, how would you feel like changing characters? And that I would come in, because I couldn't be any other person than Frank. And he, and I can't thank him enough, and I'm getting quite emotional about it, has said it's not a problem. He likes both characters, and we're in rehearsals, and he's doing a fantastic job of Nunzio. Fantastic job as Nunzio. Far better than I could have done it, without a doubt. And we've got two lovely ladies playing the grandmothers, brand new young guy coming in, and a new young lady playing the 20-year-olds. It's going to be 24th to 27th of July here in Victoria Hall, and I can't wait.
On this stage.
And I've stepped away from the directing, and I'm going to be Frank, and their lines are coming back.
Wonderful.
And the director's got some different ideas. And I'm like, and I'm having to go with it, because just as long as he can do it.
Because you want this to happen.
And he's got his vision, and it's fine. And it's just it's silly things, and I've got to stop myself getting wound up about it. I don't need to be wound up about it, because it's going to be brilliant.
Because the show's happening.
It's going to happen.
You've found a way for it to happen rather than it to not happen.
Yeah, and it's going to be a beautiful piece of work, honestly.
Tell me a little bit more about that emotion you feel when you're talking about this.
It's the same way I get emotional about Tash when, she's turned into a beauty. Like we've talked about it with your children, and what Chloe's done, and how her release into doing that fantastic role as a singer, guitarist outlet. Bearing in mind, I know what you've gone through. For that emotion of what your children can do, and what I've never felt the emotion the same as DJing. I felt anger. I felt a great deal of pleasure, but I've never felt emotionally attached to it the way I feel about some characters that I do, because I just get myself into it. I'm so absorbed into that person or that place or that thing. Some more than others,
Do you think it's a certain type of empathy that you have for that character?
I think that definitely comes into it, 100%. You have to have empathy to understand the writer's motivation for creating that character, and what lies behind it. I often like to think, well, what drove the writer to give us this individual, and to learn that, and then get involved with it. So I guess some more than others. So this is a more of an emotional role for me, because I'm now going to have 4 more opportunities to complete this play and put it to bed. And if it's the last thing I ever do, then thank you very much.
But you feel like you need to complete this.
Yeah.
You had that moment of it being taken away from you where you could have completed it.
Yes.
But it wasn't. And so there's still a burning desire to finish this off.
Got to get it done. And then, and that'll be it. If I get the ever opportunity to do it again, it won't be because I've been pushing for it. It will just be because it all comes along, and I'll probably be nearer the age. And maybe I will do Nunzio next time. But once, until you see the play, it's really difficult to describe what it means. And it might only mean it to me because it's a family, tengo familia. Tengo familia. If you just say that in English, it means I support a family. But in Italian, it means more. Much more. I'm a man. I'm doing well for my woman and my children. I have a reason for being alive. That epitomizes what being an actor is, when you can get that.
Yeah.
Is that good? You like that?
I did like that. Yeah, I'm going to take that out as a little soundbite.
Did you see?
I saw you become the part there. I saw you become Frank.
And what was really lovely yesterday was because obviously I was going to direct it, and I cast this guy called Jordan, young South African guy, 25 years old, only been in the country 6 months. There's done obviously drama back then, really good, enthusiastic guy. So he'd been away. He came to the first rehearsal yesterday, and he just like, oh, so you're acting? He said, but there's you, Tony, and then.
And then
there's Frank. He said, and there's Frank. He said, and he said, you kept catching me out because he said that voice, yeah. Oh mate, honestly,
how do you throw yourself? What have you got a method for throwing yourself into a part like that to become a character?
Yeah, I don't know.
Is there a process, or is it going back to that storytelling?
100% within that. 100% to when I was a child creating those voices way back, to the time I would create those voices to give touch, because only I could read Tash stories. Mum, bless her, did the best, but Tash wanted me to read her stories, so I did the voices. So it goes back to my granddad. It goes back to my granddad giving me the passion to do a better job. So you put all of that together in a mixing pot, and then wanting to do the best you possibly can. And I want to do, I've said, and I don't hope I haven't upset Steve or when I was talking to Jess Foster, and they said, why do you want to do it? I said, because I believe I can do a better job than I did last time.
Is there anything wrong in that?
No,
improving?
No. And you know what? It'll be tiny little things, but it'll be things that I've thought about over the years.
Why do you worry about it upsetting others? Because it was their production prior. Because it was Steve's. Because
Steve thought I did the bloody good job of it, and I've just said I think I can do better, and he just went, whoa, okay. So, but that's just because I've spent the last 10 years thinking about it. 10 years plus thinking about it. Yeah.
Changing the subject slightly.
Yeah.
This has just come to me. I remember a couple of years ago when you'd kind of been away in Spain, and you came back to Harlow. And you were talking about doing a show here, your own, not a show, but you was going to do
Clairvoyance. Yeah.
Now, is that something that you've always had an inkling towards?
Well, this goes back to me as a child again, playing with myself, apparently playing with other people in the room that my parents weren't sure. Who are you talking to? And
Because I am wondering about that connection as a child when you play and you have imaginary friends, and how that can lead into adult life. What exactly is that? Is there something?
Yeah. Okay.
Going on there.
A lot of skepticism about it.
Skepticism.
Thank you.
Skepticism. Wow, I knew a word there.
That's easy for you to say. Yeah. There are skeptics out there, and I can only talk about my experience and what happened to me. So, I was about 5 years old, and my mum just sat me. Who are you talking to? And I would say I was talking to these people. Apparently, and then she took me to see a spiritualist medium in Harlow, near the Hare. There used to be there is still a hall there where spiritual meetings would happen. More church. I'm not into the churchy side. That's another story. But basically, my mum put me on the front row. I'm dressed in this little suit with a little tie on, feeling a bit awkward, and my hair all nicely, put in one side. My mum, I got my dad on one side, my mum on my other, aunties and uncles around, because they were all into it at the time, mid-90s. Oh, God. No, 1966, 1967, something like that. And this medium just came to my parents and say, your son's got the gift. Okay, so that's this is what I'm told much later. First of all, he said, I've got the healing ability, which is one form of spiritualism. The clairvoyance I didn't know so much about until literally another 2003 it was. So Mum had passed away in 2001. My dad wanted to get back involved in it. So during the 70s, they were heavily involved, and I would come down and listen, and what was going on, and I was always intrigued, but never had any spiritual encounters then. When I remember what's going on, and it wasn't until 2003 when my dad decided to invite a circle, and a circle is a learning experience, so that you have a spiritual leader there who's very experienced and normally has some kind of training to enable you to open your chakras, your channels. Chakras are the Hindu or whatever that. I'm sorry if I'm getting it wrong, but chakras are Buddhists are aware of them. So you have different parts of your chakras which you can open up to the spirits. If you're in touch with your chakras, you're in touch with more of your spirituality.
Spirituality.
Thank you. Oh my God!
It's not normally me the one with getting the words right.
I'm 63, and I'm sure it's my brain is starting to fog over. Spirituality. And I wanted to be a DJ. Can you believe it? I've just done a DJ show this afternoon for my friends in Almeria, but that's another thing. So this circle, you sit. And she gets you close your eyes and basically takes you on a journey after she gets you to open up your chakras. And there's one in your head, which is the main one that effectively allows energy out and energy in. And that's the things that you learn, which is tuning your brain in. Now, according to her, we all have the ability to do it in one way or another. Some have a better gift at it than others. And she takes you through this journey where eventually it's almost like hypnotism, but you close your eyes and you imagine going into this garden, sitting down, and still with your eyes closed, you invite someone to come into the garden, and they come and sit with you, imaginary person, and you talk to them in your head. And then she opens up and says, "Who did you see? What did they look like? Describe them." And you would, and then someone would say, "Oh, I know who that is." Someone in the room would go, "What? That was my first encounter, really? Okay." And that was my first link. Anyway, we'd gone at the end of that first session. The spiritual lady, because it was in our house, said, "Can I just have a word with you?" She said, even before we started, I knew you were going to be good at this, she said, because one spiritualist can identify another, apparently. And she said, you're head and shoulders above these people already. First time. I went, really? Yeah, that doesn't happen. What you just did doesn't happen often with people. So for every Thursday for about 6 or 7 months, we would do that. And then afterwards, she would give me some individual coaching. And more images were coming to me. So clairvoyance is just one form of spiritualism. Clairvoyance is actually, you see things. Yeah. Audience is you hear stuff, yeah, and clairsensory is you might feel it, you know. So, and there are two others which I can't remember, but those are the three typical effects. You know, like when you get that shiver,
like a shiver, yeah.
That's the clairsensory, yeah. So you know, someone says something to you and you get shivers down your spine because it could be that's somebody touching you, potentially. Okay. So I get that very occasionally clairsensory, but my clairauditory and my clairvoyance have come on much stronger over the years. And I could give various examples, but basically I got to the point where I was in Sorbidgeoff. I met an old school friend, and we were talking about stuff, and I said, "Oh, I'm just doing this at the moment." I said, as an example, "I think I've got your mum here." He went, "My mum's dead." I went, "Yeah, I know." He went, "What?" And I described, I never met his mum. I don't ever remember meeting his mum. I can almost still see her now, the way she came to me and standing there smiling. I described her to the T, what she was wearing, what her hair was like, and what she wanted to specifically show him. And he just almost went white. Mm-hmm. And this isn't a pub. And he had to go off, and he went up for a cigarette. And I just remember this lady standing next to me going, "Are you a clairvoyant?" She was listening. She went, "Yes." She said, I couldn't believe that. You can do that in here. And I went, "Apparently." And she said, "Oh, I've been trying to find somebody who can do that." I said, "What about your brother?" And she went like that. And I went, "Should we go outside?" And we went outside, and I talked to her about her brother. Told her how he passed away, because he just came to me immediately. It's a complete stranger, this lady. So I told her how he passed away, what he was worried about, what he wanted her to do, and she just, just went unbelievable. While I was chatting to this lady, Ron came out, sat down. We spoke about his mother, and then while we were sitting, these three girls came and sat and were chatting, and I'm still chatting to everything I can about. He says, "Oh, is my dad around?" I said, "I don't think your dad wasn't into. Your dad wouldn't have been into this, would he?" He went, "No." I said, "No, I know he's out. He's there. He doesn't believe in it. He doesn't want to be there, but he's almost trying to pull your mum back." He said, "Oh, that's what he did all. So how would I know that stuff?"
Mm-hmm. How does it come to you? Does it come in some kind of form of like imagery or
both
words?
Both. Mm-hmm. Yeah, imagery sometimes, but then it's almost like it's almost like imagination. Mm-hmm. Once you open it up and then you stop any other thoughts, what comes into your head as a thought is typically the spirit coming to you. So I'll just finish with this, because I could give you example after example mm-hmm. after this has happened. Mm-hmm. So these three girls then sat down, and I'm just finishing off with Ron, and they're overhearing the conversation, and Ron goes off to go and buy a couple of drinks, and this girl said to me, "Are you talking about that dead man's mum?" I said, "Yeah." "How are you doing that?" And I went, "It's a long story," I said. But I said, "Some people have the abilities, some hasn't." She said, "What can you tell us about us?" And I went, "Okay." I said, "Your sisters, right?" Yeah. I said, "But you're only a half sister." "Huh?" I said, "You've got a different dad." "Huh?" Like, how do you know that? Nobody knows that. So you've got a different dad, and I said, and there's another brother, isn't there? But the brother's yours, and he's only your. And they were going, shut up, proper Essex skills. And so I described the people that they wanted me to describe to, and I said, and they were just gobsmacked. How did you know that? I said, you were listening to our conversation. I went, "No, I've been chatting to." But I said, did at any point did you say that you weren't? "No." And I went, "Well, I'll leave their love with you. Thanks," and then walked away. So that was an image of that person coming and telling me that. Mm-hmm. And I could hear it, because obviously as soon as they told me, I said it to these girls, because everybody has a guardian angel, a spirit that walks with them.
Mm. I sense that. I believe that.
I think you've got some as well, yeah. But we'll talk.
You think I've got some? Mm. Do you know what? Interestingly, I've started to become more open to that's what's been going on with me for a long time.
Yeah.
When I was younger, I had a lot of experiences of seeing things that weren't there, people that weren't there. I remember thinking way back to one of my earliest memories was my younger sister being in her cot and a woman looking over her that wasn't there, and that would tell me that she is there to look over her.
And you got the gift then.
And especially through my teenage years, that happened a lot in my teenage years. Saw a lot of things, and then as I became older.
And your parents never identified that, never said, Oh, you should
Yeah,
explore this.
I told them about it. My dad is a tarot reader, so my dad is very open.
Okay.
To
That's more psychic,
more
slightly different.
psychic, but very open to the spiritual world.
Okay.
And I've spoke to my dad about this a little bit, and yeah, I've also had this thing of
Do you know about your dad's dad?
yeah, because that's how I asked you about that once, didn't I? I said to you, do you remember when we was outside here with a friend?
Yeah,
I said
yeah.
if ever there was anyone I'd want a message from, it would be my granddad.
Your dad's dad?
My dad's dad.
Okay.
Yes.
He was a hard man to your dad.
Yes.
He was a hard man to your dad.
Yeah.
He's I mean, regretful now, like what he's saying now, but he was your dad. I know you've told me this. I know your dad was tough on you.
No, my dad wasn't tough. No.
Oh, okay, maybe the opposite then.
Yeah.
Maybe the opposite. I thought your dad gave you a hard time. Only because we don't need to talk that on here. That was you and I having a different conversation. But if this is the man, and this is it's a strong man. You know. So he was in a physical job. You know, still proud of his muscles. Londoner.
Romford,
yeah, Londoner, yeah. He's got tattoos.
No tattoos.
Sure.
My granddad, yeah.
Okay, all right. Don't know where that came from, but this is a strong man, and he's just saying, he used to, but that disciplinarian, but you know, but he had a soft side. Has your dad got a sister?
No.
So there's someone he's saying he used to be soft on and hard on your dad. Okay.
He's got a brother, but maybe I don't know what the relationship was between the two.
Okay. He was softer on one, harder on the other, and he's like more harder on your dad. So I don't know why.
Yeah, maybe I'm not too sure.
Okay, all right. This is all.
These things just come to me.
Yeah, right. yeah. So you know, and it's interpretation. So he's not giving me all. This is visual, and a feeling. Because if some spirits can communicate verbally. So I can hear it. Others have to. Spirit still has to learn to communicate with me, and they normally learn from other people. But unless he's never gone to anybody to do that, and this might be his first time to communicate, then he's doing it not ham-fistedly, but you know, he's trying to do it in a way.
So I had a spiritual awakening moment a couple of years ago now, and I believe that on that moment when I had this, I believe my granddad was sitting there with me.
Right,
I could sense him.
And have I described him reasonably? But the tattoos obviously.
The tattoos not, but yeah, he was quite hard on my dad as far as I'm aware. Quite tough, but then mellowed in later life. I only knew him as a very kind, loving man.
Okay.
But I believe that he made a choice somewhere in his life to change.
Okay. Yeah.
So there was one side of him at one point in his life, but I only knew him as a very kind, loving.
Okay, and we've never had that conversation before.
No, we've never spoken.
So that's just come. That's what I was given by him.
Yes.
But funny enough, but before that, he came in and overtook from an older lady who was with you, who's been sort of there, much softer, smaller, gentler lady. And that's all I've got so far. Does that mean anything to you?
No. Of course, there's my nan.
Would it have been his wife?
Yeah. I feel like I'm fairly at peace with family members that have gone. Especially, like I say, I've had this spiritual moment myself. I don't feel like I feel like often people have questions left over.
Which is often why spirits stick around.
Whereas I feel like with my family, the ones that have gone, there isn't anything lingering over. There was a lot of love given from all my grandparents throughout my life. And so I don't feel like they're holding on to anything, or I have a need to hold on.
So I get nothing. I get nothing from myself.
No,
but yeah,
no. Apart from this moment where I've spoken about this before on the podcast, and I won't go into too many details, but I'd had too much marijuana. Far too much.
Right.
50 times the amount that you should recommend you should have in edible marijuana. And it took me on a spiritual journey.
Right,
but at one point, I truly believed in my mind that I was dying and going to hell. And before I started going on the actual spiritual side of the journey, I felt like my granddad was there, sitting there with me, not doing or saying anything. I just felt his presence.
Yeah, almost.
Similar kind of feeling that I'd have had when I was a child, and I'd have had a nightmare in the middle of the night. My granddad would come and sat on the end of the bed until I went back to sleep.
So basically, you were in that such a relaxed state. That's where you that channel of your mind would have been opened. Mm-hmm. So you've got the ability to open it. You probably just need to go and see, find someone from the Harlow Spiritual Society. Find, if there's I've got a friend. I might be able to put you in contact to get, if you want to pursue it, get in a circle, learn how to open it up.
Learn how to be more open.
But you asked the question. Yeah, I thought about doing an audience here because I did all. So when my dad passed away in 2021, and I went back to Spain pretty much shortly afterwards, I was inundated with spirit. Unbelievable. It's like, if my dad had a little bit of a gift, when he passed away, it came to me and it just exploded to the point that I was scared because they were just strangers, strangers coming. Very difficult to concentrate, and I had to try to close them off because they wanted to communicate with that were people that was around me, and I can't remember how we got on the subject, but we were out with some friends, and I just said, "Oh God, this is crazy! I'm just getting so many contacts," and my friend Richard saying, "Well, we were in this really little busy bar waiting for a band to start." And I said, I had an example. That lady sitting there, her mother, a little Irish mother, won't let me go. And he went, "What do you mean?" And I went, "Oh," and Mandy and our other friend were talking, and Mandy's going, no. And the opportunity came that the person she was sitting with, walked away. But I had to, because the woman was so persistent. And I went and chatted to this lady about her mum, described her to a T, had a picture in my mind of what she looked like and what she was wearing and this little locket and what she wanted me to talk to her about.
Do you find people are fairly open
to just... First thing I have to say is, excuse me, sorry to bother you. Are you spiritual in any way? Do you believe in spirit? And and normally, if spirit tells you to go, then that's okay, because they're telling you can go. You can go and talk to my daughter or whoever. And I've had only one person in the last 20 years has ever said to me, "No, don't want to know," and that's fair enough. Okay. And then her partner came down and I said, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'm just explaining." She's so happy, this lady, and I said that there's a person back in the UK needed to sort it, blah, blah, blah. Everything that the spirit told me, I said to this lady, and she accepted 100% of it, understood everything, went into her purse, got this picture out of her mum as exactly how I described it, including the locket that we talked about and what it looked like. And I just said, "I'll leave the love with you," she said. And the thing that was most comforting to her was that the first thing that this lady wanted to say was she was so sorry. She was so sorry the way she treated her daughter in the later years, because the lady had dementia. So when she went to Spirit World, the dementia goes. And she just said, "I'm so sorry. It wasn't me. I just wanted to let you know that." And this woman had a tear in her eye and got that. I said, "I'm really sorry." She said, "Oh, I was just hoping someone would tell me that," because she wasn't the mum that I knew.
And for those that are sceptical, isn't that a beautiful thing to be able to give someone?
That's exactly what this woman wanted.
It's what she needed.
But no, the deceased lady needed to do it because she couldn't do it when she was suffering. So, yeah, and I came back down, and Mandy's looking at me like, oh my God, and I was at peace, and then I was left alone, and and I then explained exactly as I've said to you what I said to that lady, complete stranger. So, and I ask nothing for it. It's a gift. And the skeptics are, what do you want for it? I don't want anything for it. If this is a gift, then I can give something for it. So even if I was going to do something here, I would only do it for charity. I would do it I think I said that to you.
Yeah.
But like the DJing, sorry, I'll just finish. Like the DJing, I don't want to make a fool of myself. I've done audiences, and I know I can do audiences, but I'm not sure if I'm really at that level to do it in a place like this yet.
What do you think could come of doing it? What's the negative implication then?
That I just look. The negative implication is that I look a failure. I just can't do it. So I need to be prepared that. Yeah, I know I can do it, but to have that faith in, people paying money at that door, and then...
I guess, like you say, if you're doing it for charity, it's not necessarily down on you. You're not asking for money for people.
No. I had another fun example. You've had a lady here called Tracy, haven't you? Remember, Essex lady.
Oh, hiring the plate? Hiring
as a spiritualist.
Years ago, there was someone called Tracy.
Yes, and I did the bar. I did the bar.
Oh, I remember this because she complained, didn't she?
Right at the end, right at the very end,
yes.
Right at the end, she complained because I just happened to say to this young lady, "Your granddad's here," and I said, "If you don't get a message from her, I know your granddad's here. I've just seen him walk right behind." And she came, "But no, he's not." I said, "No, I know he's here." And she came to me at the interval. She said, we used to be able to do that." I said, "Well, if you don't get a message, yeah, of course I will." And people were coming to the bar, and I was just inundated that night. And this young lad came to the bar, and I said, "Oh, have you come about your friend?" He went, "Yeah." In the motorcycle accident, "Yeah, come on." Where would I pull that from? And he did get a message, from that Tracy. So yeah, I did. I guess I shouldn't have done it, but
if the voices are coming to you, I guess it's hard to turn it off.
Well, the voice and actually to see the guy, in my mind's eye, I saw him. I described him. I could see him walking, smiling, following the family. I could see him, and I said, I can't remember. I think I was doing the bar with Andy's pregnant wife, Andy's wife.
Oh, Kim.
Kim, yeah. And she said no. I said, "Oh my God, I've never had that before. Never seen almost like." But I knew it wasn't, because she came back to the bar. And I said, "Have you come back your granddad?" She went, "Yeah." I said, "Oh, you just come in with you." She went, "What?" Yeah. So this is a very powerful place.
Oh yeah. So. I've even had a ghost hunting collaboration on the podcast. That I had a guy on here called Rooney who has a podcast called Synchronicities, where they go to buildings and they go and seek out ghosts, spirits.
So I don't know about this. Have they talked about the little girl?
No, I did. I spoke about the little girl because I know quite a few stories.
Have we spoken about this then?
I'm not sure if we have.
The little girl in Victorian dress.
The audience members have seen. Audience members often talk about a little girl being involved with the show, and there's no little girl involved with the show, and it happens. Different people that are unconnected come and mention, "Oh, what was that girl doing on the stage? She was a bit out of place," or "Oh, that girl did really good standing there in the back corner, but didn't do much." It happens quite regularly.
Yeah, I've seen her. She's here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I believe there's something here.
Yeah.
I believe there's something that I'm very much open to the spirit world, and there's definitely something going on. And I've had experiences here that go back and listen to that episode that I have with Rooney, and I talk through all of my experiences. But one big one that comes to mind that I don't think I mentioned on that episode was during COVID, during lockdown. I spent a lot of time alone here. It was a place I could come, that I could be away from home but not interact with other people. A quiet place to do some writing, because I was trying to work on a play at the time during COVID and lockdown. And I set up on the stage here where we're sat, a desk and a chair and my laptop, notepad and pen, and I thought, what a better place to be to write a play than actually on the stage.
I was going to say, why did you choose a stage when you've got lots of other...
Because I could visualise how I wanted the play to be that I was writing.
Oh, okay.
And I'm still working on the play now. It's a thing that I was working on at the time that I've just put to one side, but I'm sure I'll revisit. But yeah, I wanted to be here and be like, okay, so I see the guy he was on a indoor bike, and he's on an indoor bike over there, and there's a door over there, and I could really visualise it being in the space, and I just feel comfortable on this stage. And then one day, after being here 3 or 4 days, a piece of plastic hits me on the head pretty hard. A bit of broken plastic. And I look around and I think, has someone walked in? And I'm calling out for Simon, who also has the keys, or Caroline, or Jared. No one's in here. And I'm thinking, someone's like playing a joke on me. And I'm also thinking, it's COVID, I'm not supposed to be around anyone. So... yeah, hello, someone here. No one's here. All the shutters are closed. I'm completely alone. Felt a little bit spooked. So I get my laptop, my bag, I leave. Leave the desk as it is and everything. I come back the next day, kind of forgetting about this bit of plastic that's hit me on the head. And a light from the ceiling has fallen and smashed on the floor where I was sitting.
No.
Now, this bit of plastic, I must add, was nothing to do with the light. It was nothing. It was not an attachment from the light. It was an attachment from... this plastic wasn't from anything. Now, maybe it had fallen from up there just before the other bit broke, but it really hit me. It wasn't like a tap.
No.
It was like a proper throw. And if I'd have stayed there, that light would have given serious damage.
How?
And so I like to think of that as... someone was looking out for me.
Yeah.
Someone wanted me to move then and there. And I did. I moved and was saved. And I always feel safe here. I spend a lot of time in this theatre alone. I've been here for doing stuff here for 20 years, and I care for the place and look after it. And I think whoever else is here with me knows that.
Yeah, 100%.
And everyone always says about this place, hasn't it got a good vibe? Everyone that comes here.
Well, when I was heavily involved in VHPAA just before you took over as chairman, wasn't I? And because I had that affinity with it because of what we're going back to what you did with Tash, and I thought, I've got time on my hands. I'd more than likely, I was happy to. I was helping with cats, and then I knew Simon and Caroline needed help, and I used to run the bar. Do you remember?
Yes,
I remember doing all that. That was the right time for me doing that. And I think it was only when Tasha went off to uni that I sort of stepped away. I didn't need to do it anymore. But I've always felt like it's been a safe place. I've never been scared, never been worried about it. So.
I often think if I become a spirit, this is where I'll come back to.
Yeah.
This is where I'd hang out.
I would encourage you though to. I mean, I don't have the skills or the ability. I probably could help, but I think if you shouldn't be charged for it if you find the right people.
Do you know what's really interesting? Someone said to me earlier today, "Don't hide your gifts, Martin."
Did they?
Said that to me today. Got a message from someone that said to me, "Don't hide your gifts." Someone that also believes.
Oh, in that spiritual side.
World. And said,
wow.
Don't hide them any longer.
So was this? So me reminding you about this, was that maybe another thing to get you to encourage yourself to open up?
Maybe. Maybe.
I was going to say we'll draw it to an end. I was going to do a really corny joke.
Go on. I want to hear it.
about a spirit, and it's about a young couple that come into an old house, and it's a beautiful house, and the doors open, and they come into the house, and hello, and they find this lady fallen asleep dead, and she's got this beautiful ring on her finger, and the girl goes, look at that beautiful ring. And what should we do? Should we ring the police? She goes, I really like that ring, and make sure she's dead. And they're miles from anywhere, so they can't ring anyone. And they say, well, look, we better leave. We better go and tell the police. But I'd like that ring. She tries to take the ring off, and it won't come off. And she's desperate to have this ring. She said, oh God, nobody else wants this ring. I want this ring. And her boyfriend says, well, if you want the ring, I'll get the ring for you. And he hunts around and he finds this big pair of shears, and he cuts her finger off and gives her the ring. So there you go. And home they go, and she's beautiful, and she wears the ring, and they get married, and they have a little baby, and they go and move into this new home, and she's sitting there on her own with the baby, and there's a knock on the door, and she, holding the baby, she answers the door. There's this little lady there going, oh, hello, I'm ever so sorry, I'm a little bit lost. Could I come in? I'm a bit cold. Could you mind if I come in? Because, I just saw your light on. She said, yeah, come in, please come in. And she encourages her in, and she gives her she said, oh, would like a cup of coffee. And she said, would you mind holding the baby? She gives the lady the baby. She goes off. She makes the coffee, comes in, sits down, like you're sitting there and sitting here. And she says, so what's happened then? And she's cuddling the baby. She goes, what a beautiful baby. And she says, what a beautiful ring you have. And she says, oh, yes. Yes, I my husband got it for me. She said, oh, I used to have a ring like that once. And she said, did you? And then she puts her hand up like this and said, until you know it.
Shit, you fucker. You're so pleased you've got that.
So,
oh, thank you, Tony.
Oh dear. Well, this has been brilliant.
Oh mate, that was excellent. What a way to end it. I'm going to get you back. Don't you worry, I'm going to get you back.
Mate, this has been great.
Lovely. No,
I'm glad we've done it. And,
I really appreciate you sharing, Tony.
I didn't think we'd be talking about spiritualism, but
no, well, it's amazing where these conversations can go, isn't it? And no, we've explored your journey, and if there was anyone listening to this or watching that was in a position that you were in, that you had a young child and you were looking for something to grow that bond, to help their child out, their daughter, their son, whoever, and wanted to give them some confidence in life, but also wanted to find some way to bond with them, what advice would you give to them?
Oh, theatre is such a beautiful way to do it, because if they do lack any confidence, it's a way of them having an outlet where they can be somebody else, where they can learn that confidence, and you can watch them grow and do that together. And there aren't that many activities that you can do artistically where you can, see that individual grow as a person, spiritually and artistically. Just do it. I can't say any more than what you'd already say, that if you, even if you don't believe you have the ability to do it yourself, don't worry. Just go and encourage them to do it, because it's such a beautiful art form of expression in so many different levels, that the joy that it can give as well as provide you is immeasurable. Oh, I didn't think I'd get that word in.
Immeasurable.
Immeasurable.
There you go.
Never mind, I can't say spirituality.
Spirituality. There we go. Brilliant, Tony.
So, Harlow Theatre Company.
Oh, yes.
Over the river and through the woods, 24th of July to 27th of July. harlowtheatrecompany.co.uk if you get your tickets.
And we didn't even get into it, but you're on the radio as well. How can we find you on the radio, Tony?
Oh, Almeria Gold. Oh, it really is a local radio station. It's a
Right.
tiny little station. It's mostly internet. There's a little transmitter, but it's only for about 3,000, community of 3,000 in the what's called the Almazora Valley. But Almeria Gold FM, Wednesday afternoons, 4:00 till 6 in the UK.
Wonderful. Appreciate it, Tony. And if anyone was watching or listening, we appreciate you for joining us for this conversation. And
It's been brilliant. I mean, we were going to do it in January, but we've done it now. So
exactly, we did it at the right time when we were meant to do it.
Yeah, brilliant.
Thanks again, Tony.
Buddy.
Thank you.